everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this Netflix review. The fact that you are willing to sacrifice a few minutes out of your day to watch my content really does mean the world to me. I really do appreciate it. For those of you that are unaware, I review everything that gets released on Netflix. So if you're ever curious about whether something is good, bad, or completely mediocre, come to my channel and I will let you know. So let's talk about the new He-Man and the Legends of the Universe series, which is ultimately a complete retelling of the classic He-Man mythos. Of course, we just had the entire debacle with Masters of the Universe Revelations, and so I know a lot of fans are very wary about watching another Masters of the Universe franchise property, and I have to say, thankfully, this one is actually rather good. Now, I did make another video addressing Netflix and how it treats its fans, especially in regards to the He-Man properties and everything like that, and I put that video up above, where I pretty much shared where I believe there were some issues that Netflix might be facing. And I'm glad to say that this series actually surprised me a hell of a lot more than I thought it would. I always said that it looked beautiful, the animation was really great, and it definitely you could tell that a lot of heart and soul was poured into this by the animators and by the voice actors. And I have to say, thankfully, everything is paid off because this is an incredibly enjoyable series at the end of the day. I had a great time watching it. So ultimately, the breakdown is actually fairly similar to the classic He-Man story. We have Adam, he becomes He-Man, he has his friends come together, and ultimately they battle Skeletor. The biggest difference between this and your stereotypical He-Man series, however, is that He-Man's friends also are, they're Masters of the Universe, which they always have been, but they get power-ups now, much like He-Man himself. And that's the biggest shift in the dynamic between He-Man and his friends and the rest of his team. Now, ultimately, everyone gets these power-ups, and I think that's a fresh and unique way to tell the story. It definitely feels a lot like Power Rangers as well. Like, if you watch pretty much any series where characters get these power-up moments, you're going to be feeling the exact same way we're watching this. It definitely feels very early 2000s. In fact, there are also sequences where characters get like these special powers and they can use them, such as He-Man's like Lightning Crash. And it's always the exact same animation that takes place. And it literally feels like it's the Power Rangers going, cool, this is our team up move, attack! Definitely there's a lot of repetition in this series actually. I know, like for example, Spider Riders, I don't know if you guys ever watched that series, but there would be times where like up to 4 minutes of an episode were taken up by characters transforming. Now it's definitely not that bad in this series, but if you ever get over repetitive transformation sequences, then you're going to find it really hard to engage with the series because characters are transforming constantly and they show the entire transformation every single time, and it is always the exact same transformation sequence, exact same camera angle, same music, etc, etc, etc. So the repetition is incredibly real. But once we've gotten those transformation sequences, man, then the enjoyment comes. We get some great action set pieces, some really fun, engaging action. Every single character within the Masters of the Universe has such a unique power set. So watching them use their powers in an incredibly unique, engaging, exciting way is a lot of fun. But of course, the action set pieces aren't the heart and soul of this series. Ultimately, we follow Adam and his friends. And what's great about them is we get so much character development through all of them. While some might not necessarily have as much screen time as others, we see development through all of them. We see their characters grow, we see them develop, and that's great. Every character was given their due respect, and we see them go from episode 1 to the final episode of this season, and we can see how much they've grown. They've conquered fears, they've adapted, they've learned different ways to solve specific problems, and that is great. The voice acting again was also, like, in my opinion, it was really good. I was a little bit worried from the trailer. I felt like, not that they'd necessarily be bad, but just that potentially flat. And that was just my takeaway from the trailer alone. But thankfully, the performances across the board were great in this series. And also, their comedic timing was quite good as well. There were a few sequences within this series where I found myself laughing quite hard, actually. I wouldn't necessarily call this a comedy, however. I would just say that there's definitely moments where the comedic timing is done really well. But my biggest gripe with this entire series is that it didn't need to be a He-Man series. You look at this and all of the characters are designed so incredibly differently. I mean, even the world of Eternia is different. It's much more technologically advanced. It's not a mixture of like fantasy and science fiction. It's primarily just science fiction. The characters look so different. The characters are so different. In fact, Adam is probably the most similar to himself in regards to the original He-Man series. So we had Duncan, for example, a man-at-arms who went from being a full-grown man, a wise man, a strong man, to this young boy. And all of the characters kind of had that transition about them. They've gone from these mature characters to these young teenagers. And so I definitely feel like the Masters of the Universe label wasn't necessary for this series. If they had just made a few minor changes, then no one would have been able to realize that this series took any inspiration from Masters of the Universe at all. And so it feels a lot like they took the Masters of the Universe label as a way to help market the show. That's definitely how it feels. It's a little bit heartbreaking, in fact. But this is still a great series. I had a lot of fun watching it, and I would recommend it to fans of Masters of the Universe because there are specific moments where you'll see a new character emerge. You go, oh my word, I recognize you from the original series, or I recognize you from the early 2000s series and stuff like that. And you can get excited. So there is that fanboy element involved. But what is also great about it is that because it is so incredibly different, you don't have to watch the original shows to understand what's happening here. But guys, thank you so much for watching. You guys really are the best. You are awesome. I hope to see you guys again in another review. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, and enjoy the rest of your day.